Alrighty, so here we go. It's time to do another video that I usually do before the beginning of the regular season, and that, of course, is do a hot seat index. So basically, what this is that I put every single head coach in this hot seat index heading into the season, and basically, I'm going to put these head coach either in the first category where they're definitely in the hot seat, they're definitely potentially could be one of the first one to be fired this season, or it could be in the second tier where they could definitely be gone if things could get disarray relatively quick. The third tier, of course, is the unknown fave, and it's kind of the one that it's unpredictable. They could potentially get fired. They could also potentially stay for the rest of the season. Speaking of potentially stay for the rest of the season, that's what the fourth tier is. That is, they should be safe until the end of the season, and then of course the last tier is basically a tier where we pretty much not only they're going to be stay for the end of the season, but they're probably going to be there for the next couple of seasons, depending on their contract situation. And even with those head coach that have contract is about to end, if they're in a really doing a really good job with their team, they're pretty much going to have their contract renew, and they'll be safe at least for the next couple of years. So as always, let's go alphabetical order. We start off with Atlanta United. So for Atlanta, I'm gonna put them right here where I think for Ronnie Delia, and actually I might as well just put the initial there. Right, you know what? I'm not gonna put the team name. I'm just gonna put the initial of each head coach because I think that would be better. So for Ronnie Delia, RD is his initial, and yeah, I think Ronnie Delia belongs in the category of could be gone if things could get disarray quick. That's kind of the mindset when it comes to Atlanta United. I mean, unless you win some silverware and you're well respected in your fan base, um, I'm pretty sure Atlanta United head coach will never below right around here. I think the only head coach I can think of Atlanta United that maybe could belong in this category is if Tata Martino actually stay with the team after 2 seasons. I think he would have definitely been in this category where his job is safe because the thing that he did with this Atlanta United team in his short stay is kind of what made this team want to go back to the dominant era in their early start in MLS, and Ronnie Daly definitely has a chance to do so. I mean, I've said many times that this is probably the strongest team that they had in since those great 2 year run or great 3 year period that they had coming into the league because of the amount of talent that they spent in the offseason. And now it's going to be up to Ronnie Delia, who again is going to be finding himself in a similar position like he did with NYCFC, a very pressure cooking situation where he needs to perform straight away, or else, yeah, don't be surprised he might be gone before the end of the season. Then we go to Austin with Nico Estevez. I'm gonna say he's kind of like right here where it's kind of unknown, mainly because for Nico Estevez, he wasn't really a popular hire in the first place. But knowing that this Austin front office showed a lot of faith in Josh Wolf, and even though Josh Wolf had his bad season, I think that they might show Nico Estevez a little bit more faith. Now, obviously, if he performed well straight away with this Austin team, get themselves back to being a playoff contender and even win a couple of playoff series, then there's no doubt that his job is definitely safe. But there could also be a sense that if this does not work well, and remember, when they announced Nico Estevez as their new head coach, a lot of fans were not really that happy about it. It feels like it's an underwhelming hiring and doesn't feel like it's a significant upgrade compared to Josh Wolf. So yeah, I would say it's kind of almost an unknown fave situation, and it kind of really depends on the situation. I think that's also a thing that I probably should have put in the unknown fave, where it really depends on the situation as well. Then we go to Charlotte with Dean Smith. Yeah, Dean Smith, I think he should be safe. I mean, the job that Dean Smith has done with Charlotte FC is nothing short but spectacular. I mean, the defense that he built in, the toughest defense in the league, a defense that you simply just don't want to face because of how hard it is to break them down. But overall, Dean Smith, he's done amazing ever since coming into this team. I mean, I wasn't expecting that was the case. I mean, he no more as a head coach that been able to get teams in the relegation zone to survive, as we've seen with his Aston Villa team. But I didn't think he was going to come into the league and immediately rectify a Charlotte team that doesn't really have a lot of talent, and now make them considered to be once again a dark horse heading into the Eastern Conference this year. Then we look at Greg Berhalter. He should be safe until the end of the season. I think the project that Chicago is building right now with Greg Berhalter and New Air in this team once again is that they can hope that he can stay at least for 1 or 2 seasons. I mean, if things doesn't really quite work out this season, I don't think they're probably gonna fire him straight away because one thing that I think the Chicago Fire needs to need badly is that they need some stability in their team. They've gone so many changes with head coach in the last couple of years. There's just no stability whatsoever. Every time when they build a project, it usually burn up in their face. They're hoping this is going to be the one that finally ends that, and I have a feeling that it could be because again, Greg Berhalter, at least when we've seen his time in MLS. Yes, I know in the international level he's been getting a lot of stick, but in the club level, especially in MLS, he's done a really good job, especially that's kind of the whole reason why he got the national team job when he did such an amazing job with that Columbus team that was also working on a shoestring budget as well. Because remember that was a Columbus team that before when Columbus had been as juggernaut as what we've seen in the last couple of years, it was owned by that that certain person that is probably the most disliked owner of all time and an owner that basically had have a wooden spoon named after him. That is Anthony Precron. Then we go to FC Cincinnati with Pat Nolan. Yeah, I think Pat Nolan is pretty much safe. Again, we talk about a guy that has changed the franchise over the years. I mean, Pat Nolan is definitely that guy. Him and Chris Albright has single handedly turned this franchise of being a laughing stock in the first for a year to regularly be a contender in the Eastern Conference, and there's no way that he's going to go anywhere anytime. Then we look at Colorado and Chris Armas. I think he should be safe until the end of the season. I think Chris Armas is kind of entering the second season that Ben Olsen has, where he's definitely going to get a lot of leeway and maybe got some trust from the fan base that he kind of surprised a lot of the Rapids fans of how successful their first season is and how fun that they play in their first season. Now, will that continue heading into the second season? That will be determined. And I will say that unlike Ben Olsen, where for Ben Olsen, I think the second season where it was hard for him to maintain the success he had in his first season, reaching to the Western Conference Final and even winning a U.S. Open Cup, is that the Dynamo really didn't give the backing that he needs and give the players the improvement that they need to go the extra mile. For Chris Armas, that's different. This Colorado no team has actually been able to get some new signing to improve the team. Again, I know that this is crazy to say that in the year of 2025, the Colorado Rapids is actually spending some money and being ambitious. That is something we have not seen from them uh and think that that might be a crazy thing to say 5 years ago, but give credit to this Rapids front office. Obviously, it doesn't change the guy that owns this team is one of the most hated owner of all time, and you know who he is exactly. But again, I think the difference now is that at least Chris Armas is going to get the backing from the front office, and that they already improved the team and improved what they really needed heading into this season, which was on the more on the defensive end. And something tells me you should be safe this season, and that he's going to potentially make the team even better than what we saw last season. Then we look at Columbus, Wilfred Nancy. I mean, that doesn't even need. I don't even need to talk too much about Wilfred Nancy. I mean, for some of these, it's pretty easy to see why they're in this fifth category. In fact, there's more chance that Wilfred Nancy is going to potentially get poached by a team in Europe than he is going to get fired. The only chance that Wilfred Nancy is going to get fired from this team again. Like I said, he's going to be poached by uh by a team in Europe eventually as soon as next off season, or the fact that he could have some dissatisfied with the front office, which I don't think that's the case because so far he seems to really like Columbus and get along with the front office, unlike during his time with Montreal. Then we look at DC United and look at Troy Lesesne. Yeah, I think he's going to be right here. And again, for Troy Lesesne, I kind of feel bad for him because I think that he did relatively well in his first season, even with the roster that he has, and it just feels like this is another example of DC simply not really spending the money and not improving the team, or at least, I mean, they're trying to, but in reality, when you look at some of the signings that they made, most of these signings just hasn't really work so well on it. And when that of course happens, and also when the teams are not performing well, then yeah, we all know who of course is going to be getting the first blame. It's always going to be the head coach that is. And while Troy Lesane has had his problems before, and I think one of the big issue with Troy Lesane goes back to his Red Bulls team, where again they might be a team that might not think about their defense, and maybe pressing way too much, and not letting um letting that press to die down a little bit, where they're leaving tons of gaps at the back. But at the same time, I would say that when you look at that DC team and that defense, I mean, it was pretty clear they were in no shape to play the Torre Saint system, especially of how bad their back line is, and heading into the season with not really too much upgrade in terms of that. Yeah, I do feel bad for Troy Lesane, but if he does not perform well, don't be surprised if this DC front office is going to let go of him. And if that's the case, they're kind of now stuck in the same cycle as what we've seen these bad teams in the last couple of years, where you start seeing a trend that you're a bad team when you're basically letting head coaches go year in and year out, and even front office member as well. Because if you start letting go head coaches year in year out, is it really the squad that is the issue? Maybe the issue might lie more on the front office, and that's been one of the main culprit really for the past couple of years, and now almost stretching a decade. It's almost like DC is starting to come in the same cycle as the Chicago Fire is, a team that used to be very good, used to be a respectable team in the MLS 1.0 era, but ever since these expansion team has took over, yeah, they have really struggled to be relevant ever since that. Then we look at FC Dallas with Peter Quill. Yeah, it's kind of a little unknown, mainly because actually, you know what? I'm gonna put him a little lower in terms of, I think he should be safe until the end of the season. For this Dallas team, they sold a lot this offseason. Yes, they do have Lucho Acosta, and I can't wait to see his connection with Pedro Musa. That's going to be a very good connection as well. But is that enough when you look at the rest of this roster, where there's a lot of hole in this roster, especially on the defensive end as well? I mean, they didn't really improve their defense that much, even though they let go of one of their better defender into Kosi Tafari to LAFC. And again, I know Peter Crow basically likes to play entertaining style soccer, as what we've seen with New Mexico United, and I have a feeling there's a chance that we can see this Dallas team be a fun team to watch. But the question obviously is going to square again on the defensive front, and in some way, I feel like it's kind of the same thing I say about Troy Lesane team with DC. It's an offensive minded head coach, want to play that fun brand of soccer, but at the end of the day, as much as they try to play this fun brand of soccer, they're also giving up a lot of goals because their defense just simply not good enough. And I wouldn't be surprised that might be the case for Peter Quill team, because in order for them to play that fun brand of soccer, they'll need to open themselves up, and I don't know if that team can do so, especially with a lot of question when it comes to the defense, and even the defensive midfield spot of this team as well. Then we look at Houston with Van Olsen. I would say Ben Olsen is kind of right here, where I think he should be safe, but at the same time, when it comes to Ben Olsen, if things could start to unravel this team, the fans might immediately started to turn on him, because again, if there's one thing we know about Ben Olsen, it is that while things might be good, at least kind of in the beginning. Things could start to turn stale a bit, and this is the third season that Ben Olsen is in charge of this Dynamo team. So far, things have kind of gone well for this Dynamo team. They still are a pretty fun team to watch at times. Although last season it kind of started getting a little bit stale, and now this season, they do play some key guys out there. I really like the Jack McLean signing, even though I don't know if that's gonna be I would say that's maybe still just a little bit of a downgrade compared to Coco Carrasquilla, consider the the importance that Coco Carrasquilla means to this team in the defensive front. Yeah, that's gonna be be a big loss and hard to replace. But overall, at least Ben Olsen has got the guys that he needed to bring this offseason, and at least he gets some more help compared to last season, where you basically got no help the front office and they kind of remain the same. And when that happens, that a team might not do so well because when you try to run it back and remains the same while other teams are loading on talent, it's no doubt that the Dynamo kind of took a step back last season. Then we look at Sporting KC with Peter Vermees. Oh boy, for Peter Vermees, I mean, I know the front office will say that he's going to be like right here because Peter Vermees, with him being there for so long, or the longest active head coach in the league, you would expect him getting an unlimited leash. But I do feel like it's kind of getting to that point where we're started to head to the stage where this is probably the closest we might see Peter Vermees potentially no longer as the head coach of Sporting KC. The fan base clearly is not happy with the stagnation that this team has had, and people have been demanding the fact that Peter Remy should be removed. I mean, he definitely brought some good things to this team, but overall, they just need a new change of voice, and especially looking at the resort in the last couple of years, it's been so inconsistent as well. Yeah, I think this might be finally could be the year we see him potentially getting let go, or maybe he decided to resign as well. I mean, one thing that I also think that is the reason is the case is because when you look at other longtime head coach in this league that's been with a team for a very long time, eventually all those guys will have expiring day. We saw it with Jim Curran last season as well. A couple of years back, we saw it with Ben Olsen with DC United. He was with that club for a decade, and then DC decided that yeah, it's finally time to move on. I feel like this might be the same case for Peter Ruiz if things does not go well for the Sporting KC side. If things are going to go well for this team, no doubt I think Peter Ruiz is going to stay with this team for a bit, which that could maybe be a bad thing in certain fan base of Sporting KC, but overall, this is probably the closest we might come in terms of his job might actually be in jeopardy for once heading into the season, and we might finally see the longest active head coach in MLS potentially be out of the job by the end of this season. Then we look at LA Galaxy, defending MLS Cup champion. That is Greg Vanny. Yep, he's gonna be right here. And it's pretty easy to explain. I mean, Greg Vanny, he's going to be safe at least for the next year or two. I mean, the Galaxy reached the mountaintop. I mean, I know there's always going to be that pressure once again, and some criticism for on Greg Vanny because of the fact that if the Galaxy doesn't really perform well again, I know the honeymoon period is going to wear off relatively quick, especially in an LA market. And if you know anything about the LA fans, they'll enjoy the winning, but it's gonna it can turn very sour relatively quick if those winning doesn't continue, and that's the same case with this talented Galaxy team as well. Won't be surprised if they once again do not do well. The fans once again turn on Greg Vanny, but overall, I think his job is going to be safe for a while. Anytime when we see a team won an MLS Cup with the head coach winning that, they usually stay at that job for quite a bit. They don't get fired like immediately the next season, even though they suffer a massive regression or even a MLS Cup hangover, as we've seen before. So yeah, Ray Vanny, I think he's going to be safe in his job. For LAFC and Steve Cherundolo, you know what? This might be a surprise, but I'm actually going to put Steve Cherundolo pretty high on the list. Again, of all the good things that Steve Cherundolo has done with this LAFC team, he does have a lot of doubters in the LAFC fan base. Some LAFC fans, especially when things are not going well, Cherundolo is literally the first one to blame on that. And I think part of that is because I think there's been times where I feel like he is kind of unfair fairly justified for the fact that he has that narrative, and as the case where LAFC has that narrative of never able to get it done in big games and always kind of choking in these big games and not getting it done. But the bottom line is Steve Chernow is still a really good head coach, and with the consistency that LAFC have shown the past couple of years, that's not by accident. I mean, yes, they do have talent as well, but we got to also remember in this league, unless of course you're not Inter Miami and you have the greatest player of all time, you still need a good head coach to guide the team to relevance. We've seen some good teams and some high talented team that could do well, and it just doesn't work out because they don't have the right head coach to set the things up. And I think that's what Steve Cherundolo has done a good job on. But again, I put him very high mainly because if there is even like one slippage or maybe this LAFC team really regress. Similar to what we saw when they miss out on the playoffs in that one year. It's hard to believe with all the success that LAFC had, they actually have missed the playoffs once back in 2021. I wouldn't be surprised LAFC fans will immediately turn on Steve Cherundolo head, and it's the same thing what I said about the Galaxy as well. When it comes to the LA market, the LA fans they want their team to be successful all the time. As soon as the things go south relatively quickly, it doesn't take very long before these LA fans will immediately turn on their head coach because of the bad resort that is going on. Then we go to Inter Miami. Yeah, I mean Inter Miami with Javier Mascherano, he is the definition of being on the hot seat. I don't really need to explain too much of why exactly he's on the hot seat, and I also will not be surprised he might not be there by the end of the season as well. Because remember, this Messi and friends show this might be the last year that we see that happen if Messi decided to announce his retirement or decide to move back to Barcelona. Pretty much all the Barca boys is gonna come along with him, and probably the same goes with Javier Mascherano as well. So yeah, it's not just the fact that he's on the hot seat right now, Javier Mascherano, but he's probably not going to be there for a long time. Especially, I think the whole reason why he got the job is mainly because Messi is there and he's best buddy with him. It's getting to a point where yeah, Messi is basically the GM of that team right now, and he's the guy that pretty much makes the moves and calls the shot as it goes. And at least at this point, it still works out relatively well. But I wonder what's going to happen when he does leave, and how again I've mentioned before the big concern about this Inter Miami team. Once Messi and friends leave, once the bandwagoner start to leave this team, yeah, this could be a big question of do they have enough to continue to sustain being in the top level, and are we going to just see a really sharp decline to back to being one of the worst team in the Eastern Conference after his circus is over. But at least for now, it's not over. Javier Mascherano is at the job here, and he's under a lot of pressure if things doesn't go well. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Messi would want him to leave straight away, but at the same time, I won't be surprised with the way that this team does not have a big window like this. If Javier Mascherano is really that bad and started to do something similar to what he did with the Olympic team for Argentina, underachieved massively. Don't be surprised he could be gone as soon as the middle of the season. And then we look at Eric Ramsey for Minnesota United. Yeah, he's gonna be right here. Eric Ramsey has done an amazing job in his first season, and I think he's gonna continue to do better. And since his last name is Ramsey, I might as well just throw in the cliche of Chef Ramsey. He's gonna cook with this Minnesota team. I am actually, this is probably the most optimistic I have with this team probably since the end of 2020. I would say maybe even more because I am very excited with not only the team itself, but we have the head coach to do so. Back in that and after that Eastern or that Western Conference final run, I do still maybe have some skepticism because Adrian he at times can hold the team back, and the fact that maybe this is as far as he can bring the team. I wouldn't say the same with Eric Ramsey. I think he'd still have a ceiling to reach as well, and I have a feeling he's going to guide this team to do some good thing and maybe even get themselves a deep playoff run in the near future as well. And then we look at Montreal with Laurent Courtois. Yeah, I'm gonna put him relatively high because if there's one thing we know about the Montreal front office, they're not patient when it comes to hiring and firing head coaches. This team has been very ruthless when it comes to hiring and firing personnel, especially in the front office as well, and at times even in a controversial way as well. So I would say that for Montreal, and actually I don't know why I put a Montreal here. I should have put Laurent Courtois name up here. Yeah, I think he's going to be on the hot seat. Even I don't know if he has the talent to do so because one thing that this front office would see is if things does not go so well, yeah, Joey Saputo and this front office will say, yeah, he's not the man to do so. Even though he probably could be the man to do so if you actually give him the resource and give him the talent that he needs to run this system. Then we go to Nashville with BJ Callahan. I think he should be safe at least till the end of the season. Again, he's a new head coach, and I think the pressure for Nashville. I don't know if there is a pressure to perform this season. I mean, I know Nashville fans with how spoiled that they've been when it comes to making the playoffs regularly. I mean, I'm pretty sure they'll be very disappointed if they miss out for the second year in a row. But keep in mind, with a new head coach and kind of a little bit of a transition in terms of the team itself, it's going to take time for things to work out, and that it also will take time for BJ Callahan to finally implement in his system and really just kind of implement the system in these Nashville players that are still trying to adjust that after being with Gary Smith for such a long time. But yeah, I don't think he's going to be gone at least in the early or even the middle part of the season. I think he should be safe at least until the end of the season. Then we look at New England and Caleb Porter. Yep, he's gonna be right up here. He's in the hot seat, and I said it last season. With the horrendous run that he had last season, it was a miracle. The fact that Caleb Porter survived his job, but I think this season it's got to be different. I mean, I know there's a lot of change that has gone on with this team, and maybe that could kind of cripple them in the beginning because when you made so much change in the team, almost acting like an expansion team. It's going to take a while to implement things, but there's no doubt that there has to be an improvement that has to show with this New England team, and especially if you go with the Caleb Porter theory, where he usually do well after like the second and third season, and usually that's the year when he not only make a deep playoff run but win an MLS Cup. That's what New England fans are hoping for, because if that's not the case, I mean, New England fans have already not been happy with Caleb Porter. If things continue to go worse, do not be surprised that they might really uh start to pressure the front office to demand them to fire Caleb Porter, and they're I think this front office will unfortunately have to relent and say, "Yep, we got to do it. We probably should have done it last season, but it seems like he hasn't really improved the team whatsoever, and he might be gone before the middle of the season if things once again go south for this New England team. Then we look at the New York Red Bulls with Sanjo Schwartz. I would say it's kind of an unknown faith. I mean, the Red Bulls at times they have been ruthless when it comes to firing their head coaches, and yeah, I think for Sandro Schwartz, putting him right here is right about what I think it is. I mean, if they do have a season similar to what they did last season, minus the deep playoff run, I don't think they're gonna fire him straight away. I mean, it will take probably them having a really bad season for them to really move on from Sandro Schwartz. But with the deep playoff run that they had last year, especially making it to MLS Cup, it definitely bought him some leeway. But again, I've seen before the Red Bulls front office has been ruthless when it comes to hiring, firing manager as well, especially when they're not performing very well. So maybe Sandro's short job might not be as stable as people think, even after he got that team the MLS Cup. Moving on into the next team, we get to the other New York team, NYCFC, and this is Pascal Janssen. Yeah, Pascal Janssen's gonna be right here, and similar to what I said about Atlanta United, NYCFC is another team where they're not very patient when it comes to their head coach. We've seen a lot of coaching changes. It's pretty much a revolving door for the last couple of years, and really, actually, not just the last couple of years, but ever since they came into the league. And I wouldn't be surprised that might be the same with Pascal Janssen. He might be there just at the most maybe 2 or 3 years, because that's kind of the lifespan for a head coach with NYCFC, and especially with the pressure it become with this team needs to do well in the league, needs to be respectable, contending for playoffs. If things does not goes well like that, then City Football Group has no problem in terms of firing him and look for another head coach to replace him and hope that that's the right choice. Then we look at Orlando City with Oscar Pereira. I think he should be safe until the end of the season. Yes, there was some discontent with Oscar Pereira last season, especially after the slow start that they had. But I do think that he should be safe. At least, I think he should be safe until his contract is over. He is still the most successful Orlando City head coach in their franchise history. And while it hasn't led to them reaching an MLS Cup as well, at least they made some big progress of finally getting past the second round. Now I don't know with the team that they have this season, will it kind of continue heading into this year as well, especially with the East once again getting strong again in the top part. But there's no doubt that I think Oscar Pereira is should be safe at least until the end of the season. It will probably take Orlando City just completely collapse for this front office to think that Oscar Pereira is definitely not the right man. Then we look at Philadelphia Union and with Bradley Carnell. Yeah, I'm gonna put him pretty high as well. I think he's kind of also near the hot seat mainly because again, it was a very unpopular hire when actually it was very unpopular for in the first place to fire Jim Curtin as well. I mean, Jim Curtin is so well loved with the Union fan base, and it was a really big shock to see them move on from him, even though last season the team missed out on the playoffs for the first time in a while. Well, now that they're going through a transitional period, they have Bradley Carnell, who he did a good job in his first season with St. Louis, playing that energy drink soccer style. But it was pretty clear that teams started to figure things out, and he didn't have a plan B. I wonder if that's going to be the same case again with the Union, where he's going to play this style. I think teams will definitely have a book on him now because they know that he's going to play that energy drink soccer style, and that coaches are going to use the film book that he did with St. Louis and use that against him. So again, this is all about him whether or not if he can find a plan B or just kind of change it up a little bit to not make it so predictable as well. And not to mention the other thing is that again, Philly is also another sports city that they're not very patient when it comes to head coaches and stuff like that. Unless of course you done some amazing things and you connect to the fan base very well. And that's kind of the why Jim Curtin has been with this team for a while. He has, even though he hasn't won anything, he's very well loved in the fan base. He in many ways, you talk to a lot of Union fans. He's pretty much like a proper Philadelphian as well. Can't say the same thing about Bradley Carnell as well. I can't wait to see when this team started to be really bad in the season that everybody's gonna call for Bradley Carnell's head, and he could maybe even be the first one to let go if things really gets bad for this Union team. Then we look at Phil Neville with the Portland Timbers. Yeah, I think he's belong in this category. Again, it's another unpopular hire from last year. I think the reason why the Timbers stick with him this year as well is that they hope that in the first season after some turbulence kind of problem that they had in the first half of the season. If you look at what he did in the second half of the season, it actually turns out to be relatively respectable. Just don't look at the last four games when things basically collapsed. But again, as I said about with the Portland Timbers, I don't know if Phil Neville is the right man to lead this job. I mean, I had question with him ever since he was hired from this team, and that last season, despite they had a relatively good, successful second half of the season, at times last season I started to see the same problem that he had when he was with Inter Miami. There's times where he when he got his team to a winning streak, it lasts for long, but when the losing starts, oh, you better believe the losing is going to continue for a while. He's a very inconsistent kind of head coach, and that's going to be a problem for the Timbers. Where I think heading into this season, they could potentially make it to playoffs, but if Phil Neville's going to have that inconsistent style, that not only that's going to frustrate Timbers fan, but won't be surprised we might see him getting potentially right up there in terms of one of the first head coach to be fired, mainly because of the inconsistency that he's shown in the past. Then we look at RSL with Pablo Mastroeni. I think he should be safe. Pablo Mastroeni has been there for a while now, ever since an interim basis, and for he has done some good things and some not so good things for this RSL franchise, and I'm pretty sure there are some part of the RSL fan base that don't like the style that Pablo Mastroeni play at time. But at the end of the day, he is still mostly well loved by the RSL fans, and especially the fact that he still keep this team regularly, be a very fun team to watch, and be a playoff contender as well. I think if things continue to be stuck in a cycle where RSL might be a fringe playoff team, but they're never able to get over the hump, that's where I think maybe the discontent could start to come with this team. But for now, I don't think Pablo Mastroeni is in danger's job. I think he should be at least safe until the end of the season. Then we go to Mikey Veras with San Diego FC. Yeah, I'm gonna put him right here where it's kind of unknown fave, and this is kind of usually the case when I talk about expansion team hiring a head coach that never coached in MLS. It's very unknown, and I would say that the hiring, from what I hear from San Diego fans, it was a little bit underwhelming, especially with him coming from the Greg Berhalter system, where when we saw what happened with Greg Berhalter and coaching the national team, yeah, the style that he played was very boring, and San Diego fans are very concerned that that's going to be the case heading into this season as well. But there's no doubt that he could prove everybody wrong. And again, going back to what I said about Greg Berhalter, just because he didn't do well with the national team, doesn't mean he's gonna no do the same thing when he's back to the club level. Now, the only difference is Greg Berhalter has had experience coaching MLS. Mikey Veras has not, and that's where I think that concern could be heading into this season. We also have seen with expansion team, although this actually rarely happens. In fact, the last time we've seen a team fire their head coach in their expansion season, I think Cincinnati fired Alan Koch literally 10 games in the season because of how bad things have got. But that was back when Cincinnati had a pretty incompetent front office and didn't know what they do. I think San Diego is probably going to stick with him at least for a season because again, in expansion season, there's a lot on no that is heading into the season. It could actually go very well, or it could actually go terribly wrong, or there could be no in between as well. Then we look at Bruce Arena for the San Jose Earthquakes. Yeah, I think Bruce Arena should be safe. It's a new head coach. You got to give Bruce Arena the time, even if things doesn't go so well this season. Remember, when Bruce Arena took charge of that New England team, they didn't get off to a flying start in their first season as well. And I have a feeling that's going to be the same case with this Quakes team because again, as good as the attack is in this team, I still have a lot of question when it comes to the defense and also the midfield as well. This defense pretty much is the same as last year, and that team gave up 78 goals. So unless if that team can show some sort of improvement, or Danielle somehow bailed out this team time and time again, like he did a couple of years ago, yeah, I do have a lot of concern with this team. But I do trust that Bruce Arena can turn things around, and he has shown that even with mediocre team, he can turn the team around relatively quick. So I do believe not only he should be safe until the end of the season, but I think he could be closer to this category if he guides the Quakes. Not only to host a playoff game, but maybe even playoff success as well. It's hard to believe it's been now 15 years since the Quakes have last won a playoff series. Is this maybe finally the year that comes to an end? And then we look at the Seattle Sounders with Brian Schmetzer. Yeah, I mean, Brian Schmitz is going to be here. It's been like that for the past couple of years. I don't really need to mention too much about Brian Schmitz and the fact that he is definitely building his legacy with the Sounders, almost similar to when Ziggy Schmidt was the last head coach there, and he's going to have this job as long as the Sounders are going to continue to win. Then we go to St. Louis with Olaf Melberg. Let's see right here where it's kind of a little bit unknown again. It's a first year head coach as well, and that I'm pretty sure St. Louis are hoping that they of course got the right man to continue the momentum that they had in the second half of the season into this year as well. But when you hire a guy that is relatively unknown to this league, it is kind of like unknown faith. It's just that you don't know if he's gonna do well. If he's gonna do well, then I think he should be safe until the end of the season. But if he does not do well, and especially St. Louis still has some pretty good big expectation to fill, and of course that's what happened when you of course finish first in the West in your expansion season. Things doesn't go well. I wouldn't be surprised he might be higher in this list where he could be gone. If things could go wrong relatively quick, and maybe Lutz will admit that he may have kind of messed up this hire and maybe bring in another hiring a new head coach in the near future. Then we look at Toronto with Robin Fraser. I think he should be safe until the end of the season. Even if this season is going to be an absolute disaster, even if they win the wooden spoon, I think it would be a mistake if they decided to fire Robin Fraser because I think if they were going to think about firing Robin Fraser after just one season, because of pretty much putting a team that feels like it's kind of setting him up to fail because of how bad this team is, then there was really no reason for them to hire Robin Fraser anymore. Basically, I just think that for this TFC team, and no matter what head coach is in this team, you can maybe even put Wilfred Nancy in this team, and I don't know if he can maybe fix the train wreck that is going on with this Toronto team. So at the end of the day, I really hope that maybe the front office will realize that, if this season is gonna go just as bad as many people predicted, they're not gonna point this to Robin Fraser. And in many ways, I do trust that Robin Fraser can do something similar to what John Herman did to this team, at least with this this misfit of a roster, and this weak team somehow play above their shoulder and at least kind of be a playoff contender for a bit before kind of suffer a bit of a drop off like they did last season. But until then, I think he should be safe until the end of the season. You don't kick off a new era in this TFC side and a deep rebuild by simply just thinking about firing a head coach just because you're not doing well and you're going for the growing pains. And then Vancouver with Jasper Sorensen. Again, it's the same thing I said about um, Olaf Melberg, where again there's a lot of question mark surrounding him. He's an unknown head coach coming into the league, coaching for the very first time. And especially, I will say that unlike St. Louis, I think Jasper Sorensen might have more pressure. Consider after decided to let go of they're certainly the fan favorite in Vanni Sartini. That's gonna be something that I think with the next man being there, he's gonna have to try to step up straight away. I mean, some Whitecaps fans has been saying some good thing about Jasper Sorensen. They think that he's the guy to lead the team, but at the end of the day, it is a big unknown, and I wouldn't be surprised if things could go south relatively quick. Whitecaps fan base will immediately started to point heads. I think the first thing that they could also point heads maybe is the front office because again the front office has not done a great job in terms of building the team, and part of that is because the front office and this ownership wants to sell the team and they're just stuck in limbo right now because of that. But yeah, for Jasper Lawrenson or Jasper Sorensen, I think he's kind of like right in the middle right here where it's unknown fate, but he could also be gone if things does not go so well. But there you have it. That is pretty much it. Looking at the hot seat index, and of course, I'll probably do another one similar to this in the middle of the season as well. But as always, let me know in the comments below what do you think of this video, and if I put some head coach maybe a little bit too high in the hot seat index, or maybe a little bit too low as well. Let me know in the comments below as always. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.